Web graphics are very different than print graphics. So if you're a print designer going over to web, there are a few things that I advise that you do a little research on and have a good understanding of. And that's the DPI for web, which is 72. As a print designer, you would use 300. And also understanding RGB versus CMYK. We use RGB to view things on the web, and CMYK is for print. You'll understand that if you take something that's CMYK and try and put it for web, the colors are going to be off. The file types used on the website of the house vary from print design as well. On the website, we're using JPEG, GIF, PNG, and SVG files. Let's go over them individually and see the advantages and disadvantages. JPEG files are what is mostly used for photographs. They're great for photographs because they're able to convey continuous tone better than just about any other image format out there. JPEGs have small file sizes due to the compression that's included with them. That compression is called lossy compression, which means every time you open, edit, and save a JPEG, you lose a little bit more of the pixel information. This degrades the photo, so if you're looking for optimum high-resolution photos, be very careful how many times you open and edit that JPEG. Go back to the original file, do your edits, and then save it out as a JPEG. Up next, we have GIF files. There are still some use cases for GIFs on the web today, and that's mostly for artwork with large areas of flat color. They're also the only file types out of the four we're describing that can do animations. They're also useful for objects with limited transparency, and limited transparency means objects that have a clean cut edge all the way around them with no gradients or drop shadows. So again, it's just flat artwork. There are two types of PNG files, PNG8 and PNG24. PNG8 behaves a lot like a GIF and is not widely used, but PNG24 is the top of the line in terms of web graphics because it is the best image file format for objects that have complex transparency. Now, when I say complex transparency, I mean objects that had a lot of drop shadows and gradients and things hanging off the edges. They also produce a little bit larger file size, but that's probably because they contain lossless compression. And they are also really great for color fidelity. And in fact, there's some websites, like take Facebook for instance, that actually recommends uploading your photos to their service in PNG format because it contains better color quality. SVG files, or scalable vector graphics, is pretty new on the scene, and it's an XML-based vector image format for two-dimensional graphics with support for interactivity and animation. The SVG specification is open standard and is developed by WW3C. SVG files are vector-based, so no matter how big or small you make them, this still has that high-quality, high-resolution look. Very similar to Illustrator and how Illustrator works. In order to select the right file format like PNG or JPEG, you'll need to understand what compression means. There are two main types of compression, lossy compression and lossless compression. Let's take lossy first. Lossy compression in the image, when you go to save as a JPEG, some pixel data is permanently eliminated. The more you compress, the more is lost. That means if you open a JPEG in Photoshop or whatever program you're using, when you save it again as a JPEG, you're compressing an already compressed file. So the main thing to realize here is that every time you edit and open this image, you are losing valuable pixel information, which again is degrading the resolution of the image. Let's take a look at lossless compression. PNG, GIF, and SVG files, for the most part, are lossless. In the image, the pixel data is compressed. With PNG and GIF, it's tied to a color palette or a number of colors. And for the most part, the number of colors determine the file size. For the web, the goal is to pick the best file type for the job and then compress it for the web. Usually you get to see a preview of the compressed file to ensure it meets the qualities you want. A lot of the compression features depend on the software you're using. So whichever software you select, research it and look for the safe for web options and make sure, they meet what you're trying to accomplish. Now, the reason that we're trying to actually compress all these files is to make sure that they're small enough and can load fast for mobile devices and to increase the load speed of your website. So compression is really a big deal. Web pages are capable of far more than text. In HTML, images are defined with the image tag. The image tag is empty, It contains attributes only and does not have a closing tag. If you refer back to your Unit 3 readings, you will see the source attribute specifies the URL web address of the image. So if we kind of go over the markup for the image tag, we'll see that the image source is the URL, the alt needs to be some type of text, and the style is the width and the height. Now be careful on responsive design about identifying your width and the height, because then you will limit your image and it won't respond to different devices. On your page, you'll see that here's a real example where the image source equals the file name.gif, the alt tag is HTML5 icon, and the style we have labeled the width and the height. Now I just want to note that the image source where it says filename.gif is where you place your image. Now because we're using folders and we already have an image folder established, because remember back in our unit we were staying organized and we had our file management, we have an image folder and we're going to place all of our images in there. So our image source would be /filename.gif, or if you want to use the different link, it would be images/filename.gif. Now, if you remember from our previous slide, we saw in our image syntax that after the image source and we had the file name, we have an alt attribute. This is a very important feature for the image tag. The alt attribute is required. A web page will not validate correctly without it. The required alt attribute specifies an alternate text for an image. If the image cannot be displayed, the alt attribute provides alternative information for an image if a user for some reason can't view it, whether that's slow connection or they're using some type of accessibility like a disability reader. Guidelines for the alt text are as follows. The text should describe the image if the image contains information. The text should explain where the link goes if the image is inside an A element. And only use alt with the quotations if the image is only for decoration. But because this is required, why waste an opportunity to go ahead and use it for SEO, search engine optimization? Let's go ahead and let's label it at least back to the website name so it helps you get indexed. Copyright laws and graphic design is a very important issue. I'm going to ask you to refer back to your Unit 3 copyright laws reading in order to get more in depth about some of the terms and some of the things that you need to consider as you're developing your website. Graphics such as illustrations, paintings, computer-generated graphics, sketches, drawings, and designs are all protected under copyright law. Copyright law protects artistic work such as graphics by granting the author an exclusive bundle of rights. Any use of these rights without the permission of the author can lead to potential charges of copyright infringement. This is most applicable to us when we're developing websites and we go in with Google Images and we utilize those images within our website without permission. There are pixel trackers inside of the images and they can be located, and you'll receive a cease and desist, and if not, a image charge for using that image on your website without permission. So the most important thing to take from this is to become a part of maybe Adobe Stock Images or Shutterstock Images in order to be able to buy images that you are authorized to use on your website. But again, study the rules that they have issued for the images that you're about to use as well, because everybody has copyright laws. It's just when you pay for it, you have a little bit more leniency.